So, welcome everyone. I'm Madals, this is Go for SC2 Monday, and we are going into map number 1 of this best of 3 finals. Spawning down to the lower right hand position, representing Team Dignitas, we've got BlinG. And his opponent to the lower left, the Zerg playing for Vega Squadron, it's DaNa. In terms of their run through tonight's bracket, well, BlinG, he took down Elza, Optimus, and Lila Cannon to get here, whereas DaNa took down CPU, Botvinnik, Snoot. So both of these two have been up against some fairly tough opponents, both of who have done well to get here, and both of who are going to be gunning for the lion's share of the 75 euros, and also that invite to the monthly 600 euro finals. In terms of opening, both are being pretty economical at the moment. Nothing too crazy. Gateway first coming down from BlinG. Meanwhile, from DaNa, wouldn't be surprised to see a hatch first. He has been doing that recently. In his semi-final game I cast up against CPU, he did go for a hatch first there. He actually went hatch pool in both of the games where he won 2-0. Interestingly, Nimbus does have a base inside your base. DaNa choosing to start off taking that, and the reason that's maybe a little bit surprising is because, of course, the third is something you'll see a lot of Zerg players start with on Nimbus, because they want to get the creep spread going. They want to make sure they've got a good defensible position here, because taking this base is easy peasy. No challenge at all. Anyway, taking a look here, BlinG, Gateway's on its way down. He's going to be going gate into a Nexus, no Cybercore first, no gases, just a fractional bit safer than a pure Nexus first. Meanwhile, DaNa happy to go hatch pool. So very safe opener up against any kind of gateway play. So nice work here by DaNa. BlinG, I haven't actually had the chance to see his openers so far this evening. I don't think I've cast any of his games until this final. And so that means I'm not quite sure how he's playing at the moment. I'm trying to think, the last time I cast one of BlinG's games must have been a fair way back actually. So not sure what his current standard builds are up against Zerg, but I'm sure we'll get to discover some of them shortly. Gas now pool coming down from DaNa, not going for the gas. BlinG just coming in, getting a little scout, sees already the fact that that third's there, knowing by the timing of this spawning pool, he should be fully aware that this is a hatch pool opening as opposed to anything else. If we check around, BlinG, not really doing too much crazy in response to this. He's got his 2 gases, 6 probes in each, but they were quite late gases, so getting those 6 probes in isn't absolutely insane. If we take a look over at DaNa's side, just grabbing up one of those gases now, likely just for speed. In the previous series up against CPU, DaNa's semi-final game, we saw him go for that gas, get out speed nice and early, and then look to run up into roaches to defend against any potential gateway pressure. So BlinG has a rather brave probe, feeling that he can be quite the hero. Starts working away at some of these drones, working away at the hatchery, forcing DaNa to waste a minute amount of mining time, but every little really does help. Over on BlinG's side, it's not just a lot of gas piling up. He's got obviously the double stalker coming out, kind of boosting both of those, so he's going to be looking to poke and prod a bit. His mothership core over as well. In terms of tech, nothing really yet. This double stalker opening just allows him to pressure, allows him to be a little bit irritating. Third hatch is ideally going to be the target, but whether he's able to take it down, we'll have to wait and see. With the stalkers coming across, he might have an outlying chance of doing it. Probe hasn't placed down a pylon yet, but with 3 additional gates coming, wouldn't be at all surprised to see that. That's taking BlinG up to 4 gates. Second queen has now popped down. The important thing for DaNa is not to lose any units. Needs to be very, very cost efficient. Ideally whittle down DaNa's forces, slowly but steadily. Another stalker coming on through now. Going to be going for that queen actually. The first stalker gets a bit low, backs away, is going to be able to just escape with 3 HP. The stalkers, very important to this. Trying to back away, trying to just bait these Zerglings away as far as possible. BlinG, very lucky to keep this alive for the moment. Should be able to go for another couple of warp-ins shortly. DaNa has a lot of Zerglings out on the field now. Wants to try and shut down this pylon before any warp-ins can get through. A couple of zealots on their way onto the low ground. Mothership Core frantically trying to defend that pylon. If pylon goes down, it shuts down this play pretty effectively. The Zealots working through a couple more warping in. Still, we do have the pylon up. This is forcing, if nothing else, an awfully big investment of Zerglings out of DaNa, keeping his drone count fairly low. Behind this, BlinG adding in probes, chrono boosting out his Nexus as opposed to his gateways, and also transitioning into a robotics facility. Unfortunately, no wall off, so these speedlings, if they were to move in and counterattack, would have quite a nice opportunity to do so. This pylon probably going to end up going down now. BlinG can't really save that. Won't be able to get the Zealots up there in time. But my concern is this counterattack. DaNa actually can't believe his luck. Not focusing on these, instead trying to defend his third hatch. If he was looking at those lings, he could have actually gone straight through. There's the mass recall from BlinG. Doesn't want to lose too many units. Wants to make sure that these Zerglings can't do too much. They should be able to take down that pylon if they focus it, which will depower the gateway and cybercore, although that isn't the end of the world. BlinG's now just completing off their scout, but here comes the reinforcements. Still no wall off there. The Zealot count is pretty darn high though. The problem for BlinG is that he's supply blocked at 68, having lost those pylons, and he's not rectifying that due to not being able to get those 2 additional pylons out. This means that only the Zealots that he's got are going to be able to be any help. Good force fields on the ramp to the natural, preventing these lings from getting too much of a run around. Roaches though, also following up, and this is where the problems come. The Zealots are all well and good, but the Roaches are going to be able to destroy them quickly. The Photon Overcharge will buy some time. The Immortal is definitely going to be a big player here, but BlinG has to keep it alive. With the force fields now subsiding on the ramp up to the natural base of BlinG, the Speedlings are able to get some damage down. There's the Photon Overcharge, trying to work away at this. BlinG starting to lose quite a few workers now. 10 have been taken down. As we look around, this is starting to level out in terms of the game. DaNa definitely ahead at this stage now, having picked up a good number of workers and being able to keep up that third base. So BlinG is really going to be looking to what he can do following on from this. Of course, adding in the Warp Prism, going to be going for some Immortal Sentry style follow-ups. No ability to take a third base, and attempting to wouldn't really work. The big aim for BlinG now is to try and hit before there's any Hydralisks, because once there are Hydras on the field, Immortal Sentry just doesn't really work. Ling Hydra is too strong up against that. So the first few Hydras trickling in, a couple of Spine Crawlers also coming down for DaNa at the moment. The lack of the pylon doesn't matter due to the Warp Prism making its way onto the field now, and that's going to give BlinG the ability to resupply quickly. A couple of Zerglings being donated to the Protoss army. Always nice when you get units for nothing. All in all, BlinG is still trading slightly more cost effectively than his opponent. More Spines trying to come on through. Has DaNa been a bit too greedy with the droning before this? Does he have enough to defend? He's up at 55 army supply. Going to try and counterattack with some Speedlings, but these pylons finishing off the wall off with double photon cannons. Should be able to hold it for the moment, but it's the third base where more action's coming on through. BlinG pushing forward, get some good force fields through. The Immortals, they're the big damage dealers here up against the buildings, but it's actually the Hydralisks that are being a little bit troublesome. The Zerglings pulling back from the natural base. They can't break through that wall with the double photon cannon there, and that's allowing BlinG to work through this hatchery. A transfuse is going to hit the mark, keeping it alive for the moment, but BlinG just being very steady, very safe, using these force fields well, trying to pick apart the Roaches with the Immortals and the Stalkers, and not engaging too hard too suddenly. Drones now starting to get pulled. These force fields still right on the money. The hatch just being allowed to stay alive for the moment. There is enough energy for another mass recall, and so one volley from those Immortals and these Stalkers would take out the hatch, but BlinG knows that he's in a game-winning position, is able to take the match, and therefore is 1-0 up in this series so far.